I had barely finished unloading the last box into the old ranch house when the flashing red and blue lights reflected off my barn windows. I'd bought the 70-year-old ranch after retiring from a long career in law enforcement in another county, planning to restore the property my grandfather once owned. The place had history, hand-built fences, weathered oak beams, and grazing land that predated the surrounding subdivision by decades. Apparently, that subdivision came with an HOA that believed the world revolved around its bylaws. Within days of my move-in, I received a letter claiming my barn violated aesthetic guidelines and that my livestock fencing was non-compliant. I ignored the first notice, assuming it was a misunderstanding. Then came the knock on my door. 2 patrol officers responding to a complaint that I was illegally occupying HOA-controlled land. I almost laughed. The ranch had been deeded long before the HOA ever existed. When I stepped onto the porch, one of the officers froze, then straightened. "Chief," he said, eyes wide. That was the moment everything shifted. I had been sworn in as the new chief of police just 3 days earlier, a detail apparently unknown to the HOA president who made the call. I invited the officers inside, showed them the property records I'd already prepared. Anticipating trouble, and calmly explained the situation. They apologized for the inconvenience, clearly embarrassed at being used as leverage in a neighborhood. Power play. Meanwhile, the HOA president stood at the end of my driveway, arms crossed, expecting to see me escorted off my own land. Instead, she watched the officers shake my hand before leaving. Over the next week, I formally responded to the HOA's claims through legal channels, attaching copies of the original deed and county zoning maps. It became clear their authority stopped at the subdivision fence line. They had no jurisdiction over my ranch, no matter how much they disliked the sight of horses beyond their manicured lawns. Eventually, their attorney advised them to drop the matter entirely. The warning letters stopped. Complaints vanished. And the same neighbors who once whispered about violations began waving politely as they drove by. The ranch stayed exactly as it had stood for 70 years solid, independent and unmoved. Some people think authority comes from a clipboard and a rulebook. Others earn it through service and law. That day, the flashing lights didn't signal my removal. They confirmed exactly who belonged there.